Mikasa Sukasa. You Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Look like Eddie Guerrero, man. You like to watch wrestling?
Yep.
Have you ever watched wrestling? On weed? That's the way to see it, man! It's rock!
What it is, it
and welcome to another one. On today's episode, we're heels and fists in WWE. We're talking about the feedback listener, WWE, and more. Right after this. Thank you for joining me today, Wow Nation. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me. Thank you for that. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. We'll be talking to as the show goes on. And if you couldn't make it to the live chat, make sure to leave a comment because I do be checking them and I do be replying. But let's get to the first news joint of today. And that is, who are the top faces and heels in WWE? When it comes to Raw, Bobby Lashley is the number one face. Um, when it comes to Cody Rhodes, internally, he is the number two baby face, according to PW Insider. And number three is AJ Styles. On the Hill side, we have Seth Rollins listed as number one on the red brand, followed by Kevin Owens, WWE Hall of Famer, Edge, and Damian Priest. When it comes to the blue brand, SmackDown, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, of course, is number one. Acknowledge him. But he's not listed internally on a Raw roster. So he's still predominantly a SmackDown wrestler. And I mean, when it comes to losing belts, he ain't using that Universal title anytime soon. But that World Heavyweight Championship belt title, not belt, because belt is what you put around your waist. That is going to be up for grabs, especially on the Raw side. Um, but he's not listed internally on the Raw roster. Drew McIntyre's listed as the number one babyface on SmackDown. This is why a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns was going to be the next um, battle for the belt for the Universal title for Roman Reigns, but they kind of skipped that and made sure that it was Shinsuke Nakamura who was going to be the next challenger for the belt. And currently, McIntyre is dealing with Sami Zayn. Now, when it comes to the other baby faces and heels, we have Rhodes and Rollins who are feuding on Raw, and their WrestleMania 38 rematch has been booked for WrestleMania Backlash on May 8th. And Lashley is still feuding with MVP and Almost, while Styles is in a program with Edge and Priest. So you already have the ones and the twos other than Almost. He's not one of the top heels, but he is one of the biggest heels because he's dealing with the number one baby face on Raw, which means um, which I kind of pushed earlier, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is to get Almost over, have Almost face Roman Reigns, and since we already seen that a spear can take out Almost, this allows Roman Reigns to practically do the same thing when Almost challenges him for the belt. As far as how WWE has it laid out, I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, eh, with Bobby Lashley being number one, I mean, he's gonna have to cross paths again with Roman Reigns eventually. So wouldn't be surprised if that's gonna be, Roman Reigns plays it, does a double nighter with in the beginning, him and Bobby Lashley going for the belt at SummerSlam, and then later in the night, whoever he's going to face then. Because I feel like we won't really know exactly what's going to go on as far as wrestling until Money in the Bank. Because as I would tell you later, it's all hands on deck when it comes to that. And I kind of have an inkling of who is probably going to win Money in the Bank. Um, but it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks. But as far as baby faces on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, I mean, I guess I feel like that's one thing. As entertaining as the show SmackDown can be, one of the things they need to do is build up some baby faces on SmackDown. Um, like Drew McIntyre's the one I can name off the top of my head, but there's not many. The Bloodline really runs it. Sami Zayn is doing his thing, and he's a heel. Um, there's just not a lot of good baby faces that are there. Um, I know, you have Gunther, but Gunther seems in between right now, unless you're going to try to get him over as a baby face. Having him being just dude that kicks ass, and he's just on a path to go against Roman Reigns. Like, that's the path we're on. Um, so yeah, that's basically where we're at. If they're going to go that way, then I could see it work because you can build him up enough to have the crowd behind him, which forces him to be a baby face, still be a badass, but now he's going against Roman Reigns, who is the ultimate heel. So you have him on your side. It was the thing that happened with Kevin Owens when he was feuding against Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens works super well as a heel, but when you have him being hot and put it on great matches, and now he's putting on great matches for Roman Reigns, you ultimately make him the babyface. So there's a possibility that that actually could happen. Now let's move over to our next segment. That is the future for Brock Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar has been pulled from the listing for the upcoming WrestleMania Backlash Premium Live event. Now, Premium Live event is what they are calling pay-per-views now because, as you know, when it comes to WWE, they can't just be regular people. They gotta brand everything that they do. Um, in previous shows, I stated that Lesnar was advertised for WrestleMania Backlash and Money in the Bank from the time that the events were first announced. Lesnar has not been seen since his WrestleMania 38 match with Roman Reigns, but coming out of WrestleMania, he was still being advertised for Backlash and Money in the Bank. And an update, WWE updated their events page listing for WrestleMania Backlash sometime this week, and they removed Brock Lesnar. While the Dunkin' Donuts Center website still has the Backlash graphic with him on it, the WWE website was updated this week and Lesnar was pulled. The Backlash graphic on the Arena website is dated and will likely be updated soon. The only upcoming show WWE has Lesnar still advertised for is for the Money in the Bank on July 2nd at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. There's no words on what WWE has planned for Lesnar's future or if there will be another match with Reigns. Several months back, it was reported that Lesnar versus Reigns feud was going to be a series of matches that ended at WrestleMania 38, and there was no talk of any rematches coming out of WrestleMania. WWE WrestleMania Backlash would take place Sunday, May 8th from the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. The only matches confirmed right now is Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins 2 and Ronda Rousey versus SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair in an I Quit match. Now, I'm guessing you don't want to muddle it up and have Brock Lesnar lose twice to Roman Reigns, so they're pulling them, and I'm guessing they can't figure out who should be, the adversary to Brock Lesnar because he's only dealing with high top, very main top people, and he is now considered a babyface. Um, like I said, baby faces and heels in the last segment. If you place him back and he's on Raw, he is the number one baby face. He's not a heel anymore. He's too entertaining to be a heel. You can make him a heel, but I think you make more money having him be the Brock Lesnar that he is now. So there's not really anybody that's on his level. The only other person you could put him against is Edge. And we will all love to see that. But we have Money in the Bank. Now, Money in the Bank is going to be an all hands on event. And I'm going to do some predictions right now of possibly who's going to be in Money in the Bank as far as that match goes. And they usually have 6 wrestlers. So I'm gonna do this. So, usually 6 wrestlers. We're going 3 from Raw, 3 from SmackDown. That's my Raw hand. That's my SmackDown hand. Here we go. All right. From Raw, Cody Rhodes. Definitely. Cody Rhodes is definitely going to be there. We're gonna just say that Brock Lesnar is part of Raw. So that's 2. And then the next person that should be there is Edge. So you have 3. You have Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, Edge. 3 right there. From SmackDown, Gunther. Got to put somebody young there. No, wait. Sorry, I said AJ Styles. I did not mean to say that. I meant to say Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, Edge. Those are your three. Gunther, gotta have somebody young there to pull for. After that, I will put Drew McIntyre. Got Drew McIntyre there. Now we need a third person. I say Sami Zayn. You gotta have another heel. Sami Zayn would be there, but then you have some spots you can do. Of course, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar. You can have that spot. You got Brock Lesnar and Gunther spot, which everybody's gonna go crazy for. Um, and then Edge can just go Edge, Edge, Cody Rhodes, Edge, Brock Lesnar, Edge, Gunther. You have enough people to have in that spot that can go really well and can be really fun. Also, if you if you take Sami Zayn out, I wouldn't mind putting Xavier Woods there as well. Um, you always got to have somebody, and the reason why I put Sami Zayn there is you always got to have somebody that's willing to take the huge bumps and willing to go all out because this might be their only chance. And having somebody like an Xavier Woods there, he would go all out to make sure that he makes a name for himself so that he can have his own spot later on. Um, but I guarantee you, when it comes to that, the person that's going to win that is Cody Rhodes. It's the only thing that makes sense. Have him win it, and then him chasing down the belt. But it being Cody Rhodes, he's not going to do it where he's going to cheap shot somebody and then come in and steal the belt. It's not going to work. It's just going to be a one-on-one match, and it's going to go from there. Like I said, that September date for his dad is a Raw. You can have boy still has the belt. Roman Reigns still has the belt. He's in the ring talking his shit. Cody Rhodes music hits. He comes out with a ref. He has the briefcase. Roman saying, "Nah, I don't want to do it." Attack Roman, get him pissed. Roman says, "Let's go." Ring the bell. He beats Roman. 1, 2, 3. He's a champion. I think that's basically how it has to go from there. But that's just where I see the future of Brock Lesnar going. And after that, I have no idea what he's going to do. Maybe you put Cody Rhodes over more and have Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes versus Edge for the belt, and just keep building them. That's basically all you can do from there on. Now let's get to our last segment, and that's WWE. That's WWE and losing weight. Gunther was told to lose weight before his call up because Vince wants slim people on TV. Pro Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave Meltzer also said Keith Lee was given the same directive, but didn't listen, and now it's somewhere else. Now I get it. Diversity and inclusivity is not a thing WWE has really done, but I think they're messing around and they're taking away what makes certain wrestlers interesting. Now, Gunther, formerly known as Walter, him losing weight, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. He looks great either way. And I never saw, him not being muscular being a part of his thing. But when it comes to Keith Lee, as Brock Lesnar say, okay, big boy. What makes Keith Lee special is the fact that he is the size that he is. But not only he's the size he is, but the way that he moves being that size. On top of that, the way that he moves being that size at the age that he is. He's not a young dude that big moving like that. No, that man is in his mid-30s moving like that. Basically, the man is the heavy D of wrestling. No man that big should be able to move like that, but he does. And Vince telling Keith Lee to lose a bunch of weight to get muscular kind of defeats the purpose of what makes Keith Lee special. And Keith Lee turns it to, let's say he did get in shape and now he's Powerhouse Hobbs. What does that change? All that's going to change is Vince going, hey, now change your moveset. All of the flips and, tumbles and things you do like that, don't do them anymore. Because you're now a powerhouse guy. And you can't do that. None of that's going to make you special. You now got to work as a hoss. And what made Keith Lee special is not being a hoss. It's being very versatile. Is one of the reasons why I feel like Brian Cage might want to go to WWE, but what makes him special, WWE might try to take away from him. The only way I will let WWE touch anything that I do when you're super muscular or big and you're super athletic and you do crazy things that nobody else can do. I mean, just look at T-Bar, aka Dominic Dijakovic. He doesn't really do any of the interesting stuff that he used to do in NXT and um, against Keith Lee. He doesn't do any of that. He's just a now big Halls type wrestler. The only way I will let you do it is if you're like, you can't do it. But when you're in big matches, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, which then makes when you get on the top ropes and when you do something surprising, a lot more interesting because it comes out of nowhere because nobody thinks you can do it. That's the only way you allow them to touch him. But WWE has this formula of how wrestlers should wrestle. And I get it. They don't want to go super indie. I'm not going to say that wrestling indie style makes anybody worse or better. Um, but you gotta allow some leeway. It can't just be one way all the time because when it's one way all the time, it gets boring. And we've seen WWE go through that, and then they get an influx of independent wrestlers. Those independent wrestlers bring some of their style in, gets more interesting again, and then WWE kind of backtracks and does everything over once again. So, it's just here. This is where we are. And damn asking Gunther lose weight, I don't see that much of a big deal. He wasn't that big to begin with, so him just adding a little bit more muscle, you know, it didn't take much. But asking Keith Lee to do and taking away what makes Keith Lee special was very stupid on WWE's end. Shout out to Kid Get Money, Wild Nation in the building, and as he's saying, Laylo needs to get off that. Well, 30 a.m. 1 p.m. So if you want to see anything, your reviews of every this week, Lord, uh, here we go. Now it's time for some quick hits. Fightful says there's been a filling out process between AEW and Ember Moon. But their AEW sources say there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency when it comes to signing her. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, before Tony Storm signed, that they were also looking at Ember Moon. I think she goes by Athena now, but they haven't really been moving forward to try to bring her in. Um, I'm gonna guess they're not gonna bring her in until they fire some of the Joshi wrestlers, get them off the books, and then they're probably gonna bring her in. Until then, she's probably just gonna be on the sidelines, and they're just gonna wait till then. Like I said earlier, expected to be all hands on deck for WWE at Money in the Bank this year, with all the big stars working the show. Local advertisement seems to indicate that as much as well. If you're just tuning in, make sure to look back at my conversation at my segment about Brock Lesnar and what I see going with Money in the Bank. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer says Nash Carter getting fired by WWE was not well received by the NXT locker room. I can get that. Per Fightful Select, Wendy Chu signed an extension with WWE last year just before changing her character to what we see now. She signed a multi-year contract. They really love what she can do as far as character work. When she went from the Wendy that was in the Mae Young Classic to her being the Mortal Kombat character of Tian Shaw, and then moving on to Wendy Chu. That think they like the fact when WWE loves anybody that can take a character and still be able to work with it and move forward. And I'm back. All right. Don't know where we left off at, but sorry about that. Some technical difficulties going on with the internet, but all is good. Not sure where we left off at, but I'm just gonna revert back a little bit. Then we just go from there. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer says Nash Carter getting fired by WWE was not well received by the NXT locker room. I can get. But per Fight for Select, Wendy Chu signed an extension with WWE last year just before changing her character to what we see now. From what is being said, it's a multi-year contract. And when it comes to wrestlers like Wendy Chu, when she came with her incarnation from, I think she was Wendy Lee, when she was with the Mae Young Classic, and then she moved on to um, Mei Ying and Tian Shaw, and now no, I think she was no, she was Karen Q. Then went to Mei Ying from Tian Shaw, and now she's Wendy Chu. When it comes to wrestlers like that, WWE is very high on them because they know that they could put any character on them and they can succeed. They can float no matter what. And when you're a wrestler like that, WWE loves it. They're going to give you a multi-year contract, and they're going to figure out what type of wrestler you are. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we see her challenging for a championship in the future. But what they need to do is they got to move her from the lazy millennial Wendy Chu character and basically take her back to what Karen Q was as Wendy Chu. I feel like that's the only thing that kind of makes sense. Um, Next up, WWE is doing a pay-per-view live for the first time in 30 years since SummerSlam 1992 in the UK. WWE officially announced show listed for Saturday, September 3rd on their calendar for the 2020 event calendar will happen in Cardiff, Wales, seated at a Principality Stadium. This helps explain why SummerSlam is so early this year, as WWE will use August to bridge the two stadium shows. It's also worth noting that Cardiff show is the day before AEW All Out in Chicago, which means those UK fans are going to have to make a decision. And that decision is going to be, are they going to go with, are they going to fly into the States to see AEW's All In, or, I mean, All Out, or are they going to stay in their country to see a WWE pay-per-view for the first time in 20 years? This is going to be a lot. That's kind of smart because a lot of UK fans travel for these big events. I remember when I went to All In, when I've gone to SummerSlam, when I've gone to WrestleMania, the international fans come in droves. And with that being the case, having an event in one of the countries where a lot of people come from to watch wrestling and making it easier for them to see a really good wrestling event without having to pay for airplane hotel tickets and the tickets to the event. Very smart of WWE. Very smart of WWE. Hey, it gives more, you know, people stateside chances to go see the AEW All Out in Chicago. So that helps there. But now let's talk about what's going on in the world of wrestling tonight. And that is tonight's AEW Dynamite on TBS. We're aired live from the Uno Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana. AEW has announced the following lineup for tonight, and that is CM Punk versus Penta Oscura. We have Marina Shafir makes her TV debut versus Sky Blue, MJF versus Sean Dean, Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston versus Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Daniel Garcia of the Jericho Appreciation Society. We have Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland versus Powerhouse Hobbs and the FTW champion Ricky Starks. AEW World Tag Team Champions Jurassic Express defend against Red Dragon. Ring of Honor World Television Championship champion Minoru Suzuki defends against Samoa Joe, which needs to be the match of the night. And we have Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt have a big surprise for Samoa Joe. So I wouldn't be surprised Samoa Joe wins the match. And then we're going to get the next thing that goes with his thing with Jay Lethal versus Samoa Joe. Of course, they are two of the longest reigning Ring of Honor champions. Of course, Samoa Joe being the longest reigning of all time, and Jay Lethal being right there behind. So they're going to have a little beef, a little Ring of Honor beef going on. That's going to go between AEW and Ring of Honor whenever they to figure out what type of television show they're going to do in Ring of Honor. Yes, Tony Khan said he separated them, but he's still working with Warner Media to figure out how they're going to do a weekly program or if it's going to be on YouTube. They haven't figured that out yet, but we will see. Now, if you want to know the reviews and how people felt about that, make sure to check in this Saturday, believe 10:30 to 1 o'clock for all the reviews for all the wrestling shows this week. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and I thank you for that. Thank you for watching this with all of the technical difficulties that were going on today, internet going crazy, but you're here. I appreciate that. And until Friday, all I can say is have a good one. Enjoy wrestling tonight, and peace.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when we go live next. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestling on We, and thanks for watching.